Attention home buyers. These are the things that nobody is talking about. In today's video, I'm going to cover what you as the home buyer need to do to make your offer stand out and what your realtor needs to do in order to get that offer accepted. If you're shopping for a home in the Ventura area, this is one video you simply do not want to miss. But before we get into it, I want to start with the foundation for a successful home purchase, the most important piece of your home buying journey, and that is who you, as the home buyer, hire as your realtor. Quick story, I listed a home for sale earlier this year, and I was able to attract multiple offers for my home seller. And I'd say about half of those offers didn't even really receive any serious consideration. And that was because of how poorly that offer was written by the buyer's agent and how poorly that offer was presented by that buyer's agent. Said simply, who you work with matters, so let's get into it. Now, something you have to know as a home buyer is that after your agent submits your offer for you, one of the first things that I'm going to do, if I'm on the listing side in this case, after I review the price and terms of your offer, I'm actually gonna go and do a little research on your agent. I look to see if they have recent transactions, as a gauge of their experience level. I'm also gonna go to Zillow and Google and look at their reviews and see if they have any negative reviews and why. I also obviously know quite a few agents in town and their reputations, and that will be a factor as well. For example, if agent X has a reputation for being a nightmare agent to communicate with, or maybe they've got a reputation for having very low integrity, I will communicate that to my home seller, and oftentimes they will choose to work with a different buyer in order to avoid that problematic agent. So my advice to you, before you go and hire your buyer's agent, do a little bit of online due diligence on them first. Check their reviews, check their transaction history. And as always, I recommend that you interview at least 3 agents before you make a decision and commit to one. One of your interview questions definitely should be, hey, Mr. Agent, what would your colleagues say about you if I were to ask them, what your reputation is in town? How they respond to that is going to be a pretty significant tell. Another pitfall that I've seen buyer's agents make repeatedly during a multiple offer situation is failing to advocate for their client, for their buyer, and their offer. It is shocking to me how many buyer's agents still just, put an offer together, attach it to an email, blast it off, and that's it. It's just crickets from there. They don't call me, they don't try to present the offer and tell me why it's so wonderful and why we should be choosing their client. They should be selling me on their client's financial strength and their ability to close this transaction. The last thing that any home seller wants to do is to get into bed with a buyer that has shaky financing or a low probability of being able to close. Another quick story. I have a buyer that's in escrow right now. Well, at the time of recording this video, I'm not exactly sure when you're going to be watching it, but anyways, so we went and toured this house on the first open house, which was on a Saturday. My clients fell in love with the home. They knew it was, the one for them, that they wanted to be writing an offer on this property. They wanted to secure it. I knew that this would be a competitive situation with multiple offers. So I went back to the second open house on Sunday, the day after, without my clients. And I did this for a couple of reasons. The first was to advocate for my buyer. I wanted to communicate to the listing agent in person, face to face, belly to belly, that should his home seller, his client, accept my client, the buyer's offer on the home, that we would close this deal, assuming that there were no major issues with the home inspections, of course. My client, the buyer, had full desktop underwriting approval from their lender. This house was perfect for them. This neighborhood was perfect for them. My buyers were solid. They were not, some flaky buyers that, if they saw the next shiny home pop up on Zillow on the other side of town, that they would just, be distracted by that and go pursue that other opportunity. The second reason that I went over there in person to go meet with the listing agent was because I wanted to ask him for guidance on what a compelling offer would look like to his seller. Was it purely price? Did she need to negotiate a leaseback? Comment leaseback down below if you want details on what that is. Did she want a longer escrow or shorter contingencies? The third reason is I wanted to make a good impression with that listing agent. I wanted him to feel comfortable working with me, that I wasn't that nightmare buyer's agent that was terrible at communication. I wanted him to know that I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that we met our contractual deadlines, and I was going to keep this train running on time. Another thing, as soon as I actually submitted my buyer's offer to that listing agent, I had my buyer's lender call the listing agent and also do what I had done and advocate for the buyer. The best part is when the listing agent called me to tell me that his client, the seller, had accepted my buyer's offer, we were going into escrow, he made a point to also tell me how impressed he was, that I'd gone over there on that Sunday without my clients to have that conversation with him, that one-on-one, to provide assurances, to ask for guidance on the compelling offer. He respected the fact that I went to go and talk to him in person, that my communication was clear and direct, and even that I made the effort to have the lender call him. He said that played a part in us beating out the 3 other offers that were made on the home. This stuff is real, people, and it can make the difference between you getting your dream home and you having your heart broken. And nobody wants a broken heart. You may be asking yourself right now, how will you know if your agent will advocate for you? How do you know if they will take the steps and actions that I did? Again, interview several agents before you make a decision and commit to one. And ask them, how do they plan to advocate on your behalf? Ask for specific examples and scenarios of what they do to make sure that your offer is getting accepted. Another important quality that your agent should have is efficiency and the ability to work quickly. If your agent says that it will take them a day for them to write your offer for you, that's a big red flag. Assuming they don't have any other major commitments, it really should take an hour or less for them to craft that offer for you. And it's not just while writing that initial offer, you also want your agent to be quick to respond if you have to come back with a buyer counter offer. These are all indications to the other side, to the seller and the seller's agent, of how the rest of the transaction will go. Again, no seller wants to get into bed with a buyer that's going to be dragging their feet, or that's slow to respond or slow to get things signed. These are all things that the listing agent and the home seller will be weighing as they're looking at different offers. So make sure you're working with an agent that is timely and efficient, otherwise you may be at a disadvantage. On this same topic of speed and efficiency, you want to make sure that you're working with a lender that can get full loan approval within 10 to 12 days. This means that they will need to work with you before you actually even begin writing offers on homes to get full desktop approval. This will allow you to shorten your loan and appraisal contingencies to 10 or 12 days, which is less than the boilerplate verbiage on the contracts of 17 days. If you're looking for a great way to make your offer stand out, going with a 10-day loan contingency and 10-day appraisal contingency is a great way to do that. But that will require some work on your behalf and a great lender that knows what they're doing. If you need to be connected with a good lender, simply reach out and I'll make an introduction for you. You also want your proof of funds to be included with your offer. This is going to be a bank statement, for example, that shows that you have enough funds for both your security deposit and the balance of your down payment. This, along with your pre-approval letter or your full desktop approval letter from your lender, is going to be considered a comprehensive or a complete offer package. Submitting a complete package is another way of standing out. It doesn't surprise me anymore, but there are still buyer's agents that are out there submitting offers, without proof of funds or without that pre-approval letter from the lender. I'm just like, what on earth are you guys thinking? Let's talk about love letters. Love letters are written by you to a home seller, letting them know how much you love their home, you love the street, you love the finishes and the tile they picked out. Hey, Mr. Seller, I'm a cute young couple. We've got 2 young boys and a golden retriever and we're the perfect fit, etc., etc. Don't write these letters. Don't ask your agent to submit them for you, and here's why. Real estate agents and home sellers are subject to fair housing laws, meaning sellers cannot choose an offer based on that buyer's, race or ethnicity or sexual orientation or religion. You get the picture. If they do this, that's considered discrimination. So don't put your buyer's agent in that awkward position. Don't put the listing agent in the awkward position of having to reject that letter, and definitely do not put the home seller in that terrible position. Focus instead on the price and the terms and crafting a compelling offer. All these other things that you can do in order to make your offer stand out that are not illegal. We're jumping around a little bit in this video, but back over to contingencies. Now, this is an easy thing, an easy change that you can make in your offer, and that is simply shortening your physical inspection contingency. Just like the loan and appraisal contingencies, the boilerplate language in the contract, the purchase agreement that you're going to be signing, home is 17 days for physical inspection. And here's the good news. You do not need 17 days. We proved this over and over and over again during the COVID boom when there were 100 offers on a single house and we were trying to get as creative and aggressive as we could with the terms of our offer. So have a conversation with your buyer's agent as you're writing up that offer. Tighten up that inspection window. It's just an easy way to make your offer stand out. And just as a quick explainer on why having shorter contingencies does in fact make your offer stand out more, if you haven't sold a home before, or maybe it's been a long time since you have sold a home, you don't really feel like you have a solid deal in place and that the sale is actually going to go through until you have all of those contingencies removed. In fact, a lot of home sellers will actually wait to begin packing up their home in order to move until all contingencies have been removed. Think about it this way. If you were a home seller, would you rather know in 10 days or in 17 days, or even more if a buyer wrote that into their contract, that you have a good deal, that you in fact are going to be selling the home, or if that buyer is going to cancel and you have to get the home back onto the market? Let's talk about fees. Now, in every single transaction, there are fees. There are, escrow fees, there are title fees, there are buyer's agent compensation fees, aka, my commission, how I get paid. There's fees for a natural hazard disclosure report, fees for a home warranty policy. I want to preface this by reminding you that everything is negotiable, including all those fees that I just mentioned. But having said that, there are fees that are traditionally paid for by you, the home buyer. My advice is to sit down and speak with your buyer's agent, identify which of those fees are traditionally paid for by you, and write your offer to reflect that. A great way to irk a home seller is to begin to ask them to cover fees that are traditionally paid for by the buyer. It doesn't impress them, they can get offended. So, just be cognizant of that as you're writing your offer. In conclusion, interview at least 3 agents, ask them for specifics on how they plan to navigate these different pieces of the negotiating process. Work with them to craft a compelling offer, and then follow up with them and ask them, what is your plan to make sure that my offer stands out and that it eventually gets accepted? My name is Grant Leichtfuss. I am a Ventura resident and full-time real estate agent representing both home buyers and home sellers. If you have any questions about the local real estate market or just the community at large, give me a shout. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.